Hello and welcome. My name is Laura File, and I am a success coach and academic advisor here at UAGC. I will be the host of this session Collaborative Learning for All, Making Successful Teamwork Possible in an Online University Context. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the live transcription button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I'm pleased to introduce you to Dr. Clifford Blizard, Honors Program Chair and Environmental Science Program Chair in the Academic Engagement Center of the School for General Studies here at UAGC. He is joined today by Aaron Keysbury, Instructional Designer with Learning Mate. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next slide. There we go. I'd like to open with a quote for you to ponder. This is an article that just came out this year. And as online learning is becoming more prevalent in education, it has been concluded that overall collaborative learning and engagement with influence of social factors improves activities of students' learning. Therefore, their usage should be stimulated in teaching and learning in higher educational institutions as it influences students' academic development. Next. As was mentioned, I am the chair of the honors program here at UAGC. And shortly after I became involved with honors, we made a dramatic transition from what had previously been known as the Honors College into the Honors Program. Part of that involved reducing from 6 courses with 2 different tracks to 3 courses together with a new extra component, a PLA credit for co-curricular activity involvement. So one of my tasks with the help of an advisory board involved figuring out what classes to get rid of. And one of the 3 classes that we let go of was Honors 480, which was on innovation and creativity. There are 4 pillars in the honors program: innovation, creativity, leadership, global perspective, and civic responsibility. So this one had that focus. So I took a lot of the ideas from this and transferred them over to the other courses as best I could. But along the way, I had to let go of a project in week 4 where students were asked to talk to one other student in the class and just basically have a conversation and fill out a form together. What saddened me about this is that everyone commented how exciting this was to do and how this was their first collaborative activity they'd done at UAGC and how valuable it was to them to actually talk to another student. And I was quite saddened about what that meant because in letting this course go, I was getting rid of that one opportunity. So enter Honors 490. This is the culminating course of the honors program, the honors program seminar. And there are 2 courses that precede it, Honors 270 and Honors 280. The thing to know about both of them is that they are heavily focused on service learning, in which students actually, in the case of 270, take on a wicked problem in the world, and in 280, perform an act of civic engagement in their community or the national level. But in both cases, they're going out into the world and doing something for others, be those others plant, animal, or other human beings. So in 490, I wanted to continue this momentum of having service learning be a vital part of the course. I knew that. I also wanted to keep students stepping outside their comfort zone, which has become more or less a mantra that's I use for all the classes in the honors program. You know, hey, to evaluate what you're doing, is what you're doing enough? Well, are you stepping outside your comfort zone to do that? If so, then that's where you need to be, because that's where all the growth and that's where all the excitement is. I also really wanted this course to be a rite of passage, by which I mean this was the last class for honor students in this 3-course sequence. Many of the students finishing this course have already completed their co-curricular activity requirement, and this is the last thing they're going to do in the honors program. So I wanted it to be something that was really transformational. So this culminating experience, I decided I was going to save that collaborative experience that had been in 480 and recreate it somehow in 490. I had no idea how, no idea what was going to do, what was going to be like. No, very limited experience, by the way, doing any collaborative work. I had done it years ago at another institution where there were these team assignments where you would just basically assign the students to a team, give them a task. They would meet once, they would divide and conquer. They divide up the assignment, go away, and make someone on the team stitch it all together when they were done. And that was what I knew of collaborative work online, which was more or less an unmitigated disaster in my humble opinion. I also wanted the course to be the next level, where students were involved in service learning to the community. Now I wanted them to be doing something that was service learning for the honors program. So giving back to the program that they were about to be departing. So I wanted them to be working towards something that was not just for the instructor or any instructor in the course, but was something for honor students of the future. This would make it a meaningful project because it would be one that they were actually doing for others. And it would be getting them out of their comfort zone. So the idea that emerged was to use the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them, and have the students develop a product, which I early on called a digital artifact, which the students would ultimately present to the rest of the honors program and would be curated in a space that would be within the honors learning community, which is a Canvas classroom that's open to all students that are in the honors program. So it would be accessible for years to come, essentially. So, but there were a lot of challenges to getting there, and I sat down to put this project together with Aaron, and it's a long list. There's a lot of if I really made the list back then, I don't know if I would have done it, quite honestly. And one right away is this default pattern, which I love. Aaron described as shake and break, which is a group getting together. They've been assigned to be together. They don't really want to be together. They're just going to say, I'll take this section, you take that section. Hey, Joe, you stitch it together and turn it in. And then they go their merry way, and they basically do a bunch of individual assignments because that's what they're comfortable with. That's the easy way to do it. Part of the problem is if you don't do it that way, then you got to deal with trust. You got to trust others to actually be constantly touching base and working together. And how do you do that in an asynchronous environment where a lot of the students are too busy to meet regularly? And then there's fear around, like, I don't want to do this. And I did, when I was doing my online masters, I had to do group projects, and I admit I just resented them. It was like they got in the way. They were this extra intrusion. So, and there was a stigma around them, quite honestly. It's like, yuck, you got to do a collaborative project. And then there was the reality of an experience. I didn't know any example of anything to go on. I just knew that this is something that I really wanted to do. Now, I did take OLC has a really good asynchronous workshop on collaborative learning online. And I want to give them a nod because that supplied some of the ideas that we'll be working with here. But really, I had a very little idea of what I was doing. And I knew there was a lot of biases around that stigma, just biases around not people much preferring to just do their own thing, have their own control, get their grade. And that is something that's been true for all the courses they've been in up to this point, 490. And for some of the students, this is their last class. So it's like the 11th hour, I'm going to introduce this strange thing. So anyway, there were all these challenges to overcome. And enter Aaron Keysbury. I am so thrilled to be sharing the stage today with him. But I was even more thrilled to discover we were kindred spirits when it came to putting this course together. I basically pitched the idea to him, and he said, "Oh, I've been doing that for years." And now he's going to explain a bit about what that is and how we might learn from the workplace and apply what works in the workplace back to the online classroom. So, Aaron.
Yeah, it was kind of fortuitous because I spent the early part of my career managing product teams, creating textbook products and online learning products. And so when I joined this as an instructional designer, all of the challenges of working together are challenges that the professional world of product creation has addressed, right? And so we had the idea, well, let's create a simulated workplace, right? And let's institute all the things that professional product creators do to facilitate collaboration among strangers, right? Because you don't have a lot of time or energy to waste. So we thought, all right, if we do a simulated workplace environment, it gives us that structure, but it also creates an environment of truly authentic experience, right? Because it is almost exactly like what happens in the real professional world. So what we do, in essence, what you do when you're creating a product team or you're managing a set of product teams over time, right, is you have to create structures and supports that facilitate the collaboration so that students or your collaborators don't have to figure out how to do all the work, right? They don't have to figure out how to get over all those challenges because we've created structures for them to do it. So we put together essentially a body of stuff to support students to do it. And I'll just give you a sense of how it is, but we created for them weekly stand-ups. When you're doing product creation, you'll get together in a meeting, often every day, sometimes a week, and you'll get together and you say, okay, what are we doing? Well, we created animated weekly stand-ups that highlighted all of the things that were going to happen that week. Then we gave them team agendas, which not only forced them to get together, right? Said this, you're going to have these meetings, but also set them up for success, right? Throughout the whole thing, we then created a set of documents and team agreements that they were addressing. So, in a real product creation environment, you'll get a call for projects or an RFP from a client. We created that very thing in the assignment here, created a schedule of deliverables that went through across all 5 weeks, right? And then set up the teams with a team charter, an agreement that they would sign between each other. I mean, an MOU they'd sign between each other, a team charter, and a way to evaluate their work. So if you've participated in professional product creation, these are all of the things that happen in the workplace. And then we gave them templates and forms to be able to fit all this stuff together. And so as they progressed through the course, they didn't have to worry about how to do the work, right? They had to get in there, and that freed up the time for them to be able to collaborate together, right? We added in then, of course, the whole time added in directly relevant readings and videos, which really covered working together on teams. It covered the 4 pillars that Clifford mentioned and covered the self-development that's important to this whole process.
Yeah. So all of these work together just fantastically. And, none of them would I comfortably remove for the student's first experience. They really all play together. And, the MOU and team charter are just so vital for forming the group. And then meanwhile, they're watching a TED talk about how to form a group when you're stuck together and you have a tight deadline. So they're actually learning applicable content, right? Is what they're doing in the course. These are all open access. There's no paid textbook for this course. It's all a collection of resources that are tailored toward the specific application of doing a project like this. So everything they're doing is important, and it all stitches together to make this happen. Having that regular schedule, having these clear deliverables, and knowing they're going to meet and this is what they need to cover is just so vital. And then there's the final project, but then there's also a presentation of that project at the end of the course. On the Thursday after the class ends, each team presents via recording in a short speech, presents their artifact to the honors program in kind of this special night. And other honors students show up and get to see all these artifacts that are going to now be part of the gallery. And this the agenda I want to add overrides that sense of let's just divide it and meet back together. It communicates to them you're going to meet every day, and we're removing the obstacles to collaboration, and that is just so powerful. So enter the metacognitive cycle, because what else is going on in this class? Well, the students are keeping a journal every week, and in that journal they're reflecting on the 4 pillars of the honors program, which I mentioned before. Let me see if I can name them again: leadership, civic responsibility, global perspective, and innovation creativity. And they're reflecting on how they are growing in those areas in the context of doing this project. So they're actually doing the project every week, and then they're reflecting on what they're doing. And through it all, a very important part of the honors program is the growth mindset. The idea that it's all about where you can go from here. It's not about these are your limitations. So in this course, the students also do self-assessments in the 4 pillars. They find out what are their strengths and what are their areas for growth in leadership. But that isn't because they need to just know what they do well. It's so they can identify where they can get stronger and then develop a plan for doing that. And they actually develop a self-plan for doing that independently in this course of this big project. So it's a very busy course. There's a lot going on. But this continuous improvement means that they are developing these skills, and they're emerging as stronger leaders. And for some of the students, that means it's truly amazing, powerful things to read this in their journals, where they talk about, you know what? I always thought being a leader was about being in the front of the room and running things. This project, I'm learning to step back and let everyone have a voice. Wow. They're going to emerge from the course with that understanding. Their team projects in the future are going to be stellar as a result of that.
You know, Clifford, just a note too, because earlier when you had the students in the panel talking about their experience, I was impressed by, first of all, how articulate they were about their own experience. And I think that's probably a product of the metacognitive cycle, right? That you had them articulating out as they went along what they were doing, how they could continue to improve. And so it obviously became a transferable skill for them, right? As they were presenting it this morning. I thought that was pretty impressive.
And transformational. They emerge. This is a rite of passage. They emerge from this experience, transformed in the way they think about the world and working with others. So how did it work? It worked. It went stellar. Yep. It was just a complete, I mean, yes, there were those inevitable little glitches of typos. They inevitably emerge. I don't know where they come from. It's kind of like, in the universe, a matter and antimatter particle zip into existence from the vacuum and then collide, disappear. I think that typos come from the same, I think it's a quantum mechanics involved somehow. But all the teams were successful, and all of them overcame the obstacles to get there. And little things that came up were easily corrected. So what is the product of all this? The product is a living contribution to the honors learning community, the Global Sustainable Solutions Gallery. And this is the gallery as it appears in the honors learning community. And each of the little the hyperlinked terms over here take you to an actual project or set of projects. The ones that aren't hyperlinked, student groups haven't taken them on yet. We've only had I've only had 2 classes complete them. So to this point, I have a 3rd class running now. So students haven't done no poverty and industry innovation and infrastructure yet, but that will happen. So they create these amazing projects like this Zero Hunger. And maybe you want to click through a little bit, Aaron, and just say a little bit about this. This is an interactive that is designed like a menu that you would, not a menu so much, but like the waiter at a restaurant would take your order on, and or a menu even. It's it's just
pretty cool.
And they're designing this using a digital tool they're not familiar with. The idea here is to take all the students out of their comfort zone by taking away the prop of PowerPoint. They can't default to what they already know. They have to do something new.
Yeah, the student this morning made a really great point, I thought, about that I hadn't really thought through about being taken out of your comfort zone means that you have to rethink everything, right? And when you're rethinking everything, you have to then approach it critically. And I thought that was a really important insight that she had. And it's clear when you look at these things, they're very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Especially for a new technology that they've never used before.
Yeah, this is stellar. So what are the results? What are students getting from this? And well, those of you that were at the morning session with our panel learned a lot about that, but I'll just go through them quickly. Obviously, the students are getting something to put on their resume. And when they're asked in an interview, share with me one of your experiences doing collaborative work or working with others. And I dare you to come up with an interview where that probably isn't one of the questions or some permutation thereof. They can share the story of what they did here, and they can do it in great detail, identifying the specific things that they've learned. Okay,
and there are a lot of intent. Yep. I'm sorry, but the person they're talking to is going to recognize what they did here as truly an authentic version of what they're interviewing for.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So what intangibles are they going to have? Well, they're going to have leadership skills. They're going to have self-confidence, which is huge. They're going to have heightened self-awareness. They're going to have trust. They're learning how to trust others and work together. They're going to be empowered by knowing what's possible in a collaborative project. And they're going to be prepared professionally for doing this in the workplace in the future. So it's just absolutely, again, what they shared is just amazing. So what have I learned? Well, there's a real hunger, if I can go back to that, which we don't have to go back to in the slides, but if I can just refer us back to the zero hunger digital artifact you just recently saw, there's a huge hunger in the part of students for this kind of experience if you're able to present it in a way that empowers them to make it possible, that provides the necessary structure for it to happen, where it's not an afterthought in a course, particularly for the first time when they're doing it, but that it's central to the way the course is designed, such that the project enables deep, meaningful engagement. There's a tremendous lack of this right now in the online world. And if you think about social constructivism, there's this whole theory that posits that human beings construct meaning and construct their worlds through interactions with others. And this can translate to almost any learning context online. Now, I want you to imagine for a minute, by way of closing, an online culture in which this kind of experience is front and center over 4 years. Obviously, or more years, however many years the student's there. Over time, obviously, by the time the student's graduating, you don't need all these structures. You can just set them loose and say, this is your collaborative project. Here's your teams, get going. They're not going to need all these deliverables. They're not going to need all this support because it will be second nature. And if you look at the incredible amount of learning and the transformation that the students had here, and by interacting with each other, how richly they now see their topic, there's a synergy that happens when students are interacting like this. They're getting more out of it collectively than they would have individually, adding up all the things they would have gotten individually. Imagine the amount of learning. Imagine where students could go by the time they graduate if this were absolutely central to the online learning. This is bigger than the workplace. This is incredibly powerful. And I think this particular vehicle for learning is one that should be a vital part of instructional design in the online world from this point forward. So,
Dr. Blizard, you very well said. And I am giving you the 5 minutes warning here till the end.
Perfect.
Just to let you know, I already saw a couple of comments. I'd be happy to read them, but you want your special thanks, Dr.
I just want to extend a special thanks to Dr. Charles Holmes, who was instrumental in this course as well. He worked quietly on the sidelines, but he collaborated with me as well on the design of this. And he just cheered it on, which was immensely helpful to me to know I was, okay, I guess I'm going in the right direction. And he also designed the first digital artifact because students coming in the first time didn't have other digital artifacts from students to view. So he created one that the students were able to see. And absolutely learning mate that brought Aaron into my life and into this project. And to Aaron, I owe an enormous debt for
Absolutely.
what he's done in this course to make this a reality. So let's hear from other folks out there in the
Yes,
last couple minutes.
you have, at a minimum, and this came from Catherine Johnson. Excuse me, at a minimum, it could be scaffolded across the program. Clifford, did you have adjunct faculty teaching the course?
The honors program currently is taught entirely by full-time faculty. And I will be honest, I have taught, it's only been offered 3 times, and I've taught all 3 of them. And one of these days, I'm going to create the one of my projects at the end of the design was to create an instructor manual, instructor guide, and I still need to do that. I haven't done that yet because I've been teaching it, but I will do that. But no, I don't expect that that associate faculty will teach this course just because of the tradition of the honors program. But there's no reason an associate faculty couldn't dive in and do this. Just like I thought earlier today, it was really, really neat to hear from one of the students in the panel talk about how, yes, you're coming in with different levels of ability and different this and that, but what's important is the communication. So I think if the instructor is able to know how to be there, and in the honors program, the instructor is spotter. Okay, use the image. There was a ropes course that in my camp years ago, and you'd be up on the ropes, and this is before we had like support ropes. This is in the olden days, but there'd be someone down below you spotting you while you're going along, and that is the role of the instructor in this course. The students really take on their own learning. They own their own learning. I'm there as the instructor to just be there when they need me and as they need me. And that's the main role. Other questions in our last couple minutes?
I don't see any coming through. I
Or
do see
comments from anyone?
comments. Paul made a comment. This so much the heart and soul of George KUH's, looks like
Cues,
hips,
hips. Yep.
HIQ's hips. Yes,
Yep.
that was Paul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hip,
I
hip,
don't
hooray.
see any other questions. Anybody else going to be putting something in the chat? Please let
While they're
us
putting
know.
things in the chat, I will
Yes.
announce that I just recently formed a collaborative learning in the online university discussion group, which will have a meetup through the Whova app next week at the same time on Tuesday as the panel was that I was involved in this morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I limited it to 10, but if it gets to 10, I'll add more. I'd love, the more the merrier. I'd love to get people together and get talking about brainstorming how we can spread this far and wide throughout UAGC and throughout the online realm. So
There's one comment. With that guide, we could scale that across the institution. Get going, Clifford.
well, this will be a guide
Friend
specific to this
Anonymous.
course,
Okay.
but yeah, I can imagine also creating a general guide and identifying. But as I said, ultimately, if it's offered a series of places across the university, the first time students encounter it, they need the maximum scaffolding. The next time, a little bit less. And by the time, actually, I'm going to put myself out of business, because what it will do if it happens is I'll have to redo the honors course, because they won't need all the scaffolding because they'll already have done it 5 or 6 times before. So this is actually not to my own benefit, lasting benefit, to suggest that. But I am. And I think the first time it would be offered, it would require this level of support.
Is there a final question anybody has out
Yes.
there?
An
Anybody?
ultimate question to life, the universe, and everything. I think the answer is 42, if I recall correctly, but from Douglas Adams. But if there's any questions, thoughts, this last minute questions, quite literally. How's that?
Yes,
And
I agree with you.
and if not, I just want to thank Aaron so much and thank all of you. But anyone?
While we're waiting, I want to thank you, Dr. Clifford Blizard and Aaron Keysbury, and of course, Paul Schultz, for just amazing technical backup. He was our tech host. My name's Laura, and what an awesome opportunity that we all had here today.
Thank you.
I don't see anything, and I've got 1:30 for Mountain Time right now. Is there anything else? Anybody?
If you do have questions, feel free to join the collaborative work discussion group next week, and we'll figure them out there. So thank you all so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.